Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this evening's episode of the Matters of the Mind podcast. I am your host, Alisa Abernathy Boston. If you are tuning in, this is the last night of these series of conversations. This Matters of the Mind podcast this week was focused on the mental health awareness month. And so all of the conversations that we've been having this week have been focused and geared towards mental health awareness. So all of the subject matters were focused. But if you don't know what Matters of the Mind podcast is, Matters of the Mind podcast is a space where people, professionals and non-professionals come together and have candid conversations about various subject matters, ranging from mental health, finances, careers, relationship, and so much more. During these conversations, we dive really deep and we give real, unbiased perspectives about the related subject matter. Tonight, I am super excited about tonight's conversation. The reason why I'm excited is because when we talk about the school system, we focus on children and youth just going to school and getting an education. But while they're going through the educational process, there are a lot of things that's happening with them emotionally and mentally. And there are people that go to school, they get an education to specialize to work in the education system to help support young people and children emotionally and mentally. So tonight we are going to be talking about redefining success beyond grades, nurturing resilient minds and compassionate hearts within the evolving landscape of mental health and the educational system, because it's not one and or, it's together, it's one. And so tonight I'm going to be having this really awesome conversation with a great person who has worked in the school system in many different facets. I'm bringing to the stage Simone Muschett. She's going to introduce herself tonight. Welcome.
Hey, Lisa. Hello, everyone. You want me to introduce myself now?
Yeah, so what, and I probably was talking really fast, so I'm gonna slow down. So yes, you can restate your name and then you're gonna answer these three questions. Who are you? What do you do? And what does this conversation mean to you?
Mhm. Okay, so I'm Simone Elise Muschett. I am a licensed master's school social worker. And this conversation is everything to me. It's all the things that I am about. Not only am I a person that lives with mental health issues myself, I am a student of all students. I love school and I understand the pressures going in it, going through it. But I also understand the achievements and the reward and the what makes it worth it on the end, on the other side. And I work in schools and helping and supporting young people through that, as well as I run a nonprofit. So I literally
I
dedicate
was
my
waiting for you to
whole
say
life. It
that.
didn't hit me yet. It didn't hit me yet until this moment. Yes, I dedicated my whole life to creating safe spaces for trauma storytelling so that it fosters vulnerability, human connectedness, and sense of belonging so that we can reduce the negative effects of mental health and teach our young people just safe ways to deal with life when life is lifing and their parents.
Yeah, I admire the work that you do. I'm not to tell like our backstory and how we connected, but just learning about you, what you do, and how even your personal life journey and experiences influenced and gave you the passion that you have for young people to not to create spaces where they're not just sinking in trauma, but they are healing. They are growing. They're evolving. They're not allowing their trauma to turn them into anything else but a successful person, because you could take trauma and you can look at it and address it and use it as a sounding board or a space where you can catapult and grow from.
Yeah.
So let's jump into the questions. Explain your role. What is your role as a therapist, social worker in the school system?
Okay, so that's a loaded question. It's a loaded question because my specific role, which is a high needs full time school social worker, is still a novice role in comparison to a school based support team social worker, which is the type
Mm,
worker that most of us growing up in the school system were used to seeing. If you were a student with disabilities and had to go through that process, 9 times out of 10, not 9 times, it's supposed to be 10 times out of 10, you would have met with a social worker to get your psychosocial history and so on and so forth, from the family, to provide, or to include with the academic evaluation and the physical, all the other evaluations that the
mhm,
has to acquire in that process. That was the primary role of a social worker in the DOE. So as it got closer to COVID, and also because of COVID, so right before COVID, we were dealing with a bullying crisis in the
mm,
system. And from there, they had started pulling social workers into the system. So my district specifically, were hiring social workers. That's how I got my role at that time due to the bullying crisis. COVID came into place, and a lot of the social workers that were hired under that anti-bullying agreement were let go because
mm.
what's a school social worker when school is on the computer? I was fortunate because our guidance counselor left. And so I was able to do the role. So, and he was much older. He needed to retire. He was a much, 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 much older man. So, time for him to retire because the computer was too much for him. And so that's how come I got to keep my role at that time when that sweep took place. So after COVID, there's a new need for social workers, right?
Mhm.
So then they started rehiring high need social workers, and we are in a school 5 days a week full time. We don't split. SPST social workers that I mentioned previously, they are split between two, sometimes three different schools, which
Wow.
makes it difficult for them to foster any like relationships and things
Right.
and do other services. So primarily their only service is to support those family evaluations for students who are being tested for having an IEP. So that's that. So what do I do? What is a high needs social?
Because you're
Love the
teaching us.
question.
You're
Yeah,
educating us.
because I had to it's an issue. I had to do that for people to understand where we are. So the high needs social worker, unfortunately, our role in a sense is being written as we speak because we're doing something that's never really been done. Like when I was in school,
Mm,
social worker in my school building was, and most of my peers, that's the thing. So now we're the generation that are now in schools having to do this role that we've never seen. And because a social worker, and you know this, we're so multifaceted,
yes.
right? We can do so many things. So a lot of any issue that could relate to a social problem, they try to put it on us. So that could be things as regards to
Wow.
attendance. We could support attendance. Some social workers in the school supports students in temporary housing. Um, some social workers do support the crisis team. All of these things I'm mentioning so far, I do them. I'm the person at my school that does
Wow.
things. Um, Also, social and emotional learning. The social worker is the primary person for social and emotional learning. What does that mean? That means workshops. That means different engaging programming, respect for all week, and all these
Wow.
different programs to help the kids learn how to socialize, become self-aware, socially aware, self-manage, so on and so forth. And that's just, and I'm telling you the things I do. And then there's social workers in other places that do a little less, do a little more. Like it shifts based off of the needs of that school and the resources of that school. So that's pretty much the high needs person. We also do the individual counseling, but we focus on at risk. Guidance counselors do the mandated counseling. Typically, we could do mandated counseling. We can, but my purpose and my role as a high needs social worker is to focus on the at risk population.
And so, to segue into that piece, because this is a question that I wanted to ask that I felt made sense after the first one. What is the difference? You kind of gave a little bit of a difference of the guidance counselor, but what is the difference between the school social worker, the psychologist, and the guidance counselor? What are the difference between those roles? And I feel like we should have invited every parent from New York City to be on this line because they need to know this, right? So when they walk into the schools and they need support and they need help, who am I really talking to and who does what so I can get what I need done for the success of my child?
Right. So the psychologist is the person that's going to test. They're going to test your child if they are a student being tested to be diagnosed with a learning disability, to go through that process. The guidance counselor gives counseling that is different from social work, and the difference is that social workers operate from a therapeutic lens. We also expect growth. So we do treatment planning, objectives, because our mission is to develop self-determination and empower our clients to achieve, their next goal, their next steps. That's what we do. So we are seeking for a change in our clients when we're working with them. Guidance counselors, not so much. Now, I'm not a guidance counselor myself, so I didn't go through their education process. So I don't know what they were told or taught. But from my observation of what I've seen guidance counselors do in practice and my experience over the last, it's going on 15 years. I'm getting old. Um,
And you didn't start as a school social worker.
right. I started as an educator.
All right. We didn't get to that part, but
Yeah, see, I lost my train of thought. Oh, the guidance counselor just gives guidance. You come in, you have a problem, they will give guidance, but they do not aim to ensure that you apply that guidance
mm,
and bring it back, if that makes sense. That's why in a sense it's kind of like a little beef, because social workers are in a sense a threat to the guidance counselor that's not doing the most. Like the social workers doing the therapy, we're putting you in extracurricular activities, we're going to come to your games or your show. Today I just had one of my students that I'm counseling do like a mini TED talk in town hall, and she gave her whole testimony and the kids engaged in a Q&A, and everyone was like, oh my god, I didn't know they could do this. But
yeah,
we're trying to get the whole child. We're person centered. We do
yeah.
person centered treatment, and guidance counselors do not operate in the same lens. We're writing copious notes, clinical notes. They don't have to do that. And so that's why it's hard to see the change when we're sending kids to the counseling and you don't see any growth or you don't see any changes or anything like that. It's because the counselors don't really have to enforce anything. They just have to provide the service. They don't feel like it's their responsibility for the child to change, as long as they showed up and they met with the student. And some educators feel the same way. As long as I showed up and teach, you should learn it, and that's it, like Rita Pearson said.
And not to cut your thought, because this is the segue to that. So, how does everybody collaborate with the same goal and objective in mind, right? So, when does the collaboration happen so that you can see the cohesion and the growth and development in each area of that child, their educational piece, emotional, is there a collaboration? What does that look like?
Well, to be honest, it's so crazy because this might surprise many people. That collaboration is not necessary unless a child is being evaluated to receive special education services.
Mm.
That's what that team is. That team you described is the SBSC team, which is the mindset that everyone is stuck on in the school system. And we're trying to break that mindset. Like, that's one type of social worker for one type of service. And the psychologist's purpose is to make sure those students, one, are tested appropriately, make sure is that the cases goes through, the psychologist
Mhm.
off on it and all that jazz. But they have absolutely technically nothing to do with me. Now, the reason why I'm a vital piece in that puzzle is because I'm the full-time social worker, so I know all the kids. So whether they're going for special ed services or not, I know them. So I can give them some social history or some things that I've already been working on with them, or I already have a relationship or rapport with the family and they need to get some documents. And so I would kind of be like the liaison between that team and the school. But that was just a little dot as it relates to my scope of what I'm doing during the day, because they come in twice a week. So I see them once a week if I'm lucky.
So you don't feel that there should be some type of collaborative experience or something happening outside of just testing a child for an IEP or for whatever it is, that you don't think that outside of that, because I think only implementing that when there's a possibility of special need or behavioral issue only seems like we are only addressing it when it's a problem versus continuing that connectivity across, roles.
So when you say, what is it that you are expecting?
So, or what I'm envisioning. What I'm
Yeah.
envisioning is the psychologist is doing the evaluation, the social worker is doing their thing. Everybody has their own role in which they implement a certain level of assessment, and they all come up with I don't want to say a treatment plan because everybody, like you said, all roles don't do a treatment plan. But if you come up with a treatment plan or area of goal and the guidance counselor comes into play, do you and the guidance counselor sit down and say, hey, this is a treatment plan that I have been working with this child. I know they are coming into your office and you're giving guidance, but maybe if we collaborated on the treatment plan because it ties into whatever that guidance is that's being given, maybe we can uh, increase the likelihood of the success of the goal.
Yeah, so ideally that's IEP meeting. That's supposed to happen at the IEP meeting as well as with the parent as included. That's what that team is for, literally. My role has nothing really to do with that team. I'm a privilege to the team and I choose to be on the team
Mm.
because I have the best knowledge of all the kids. I'm in the building 5 days a week, all day with the kids. They're in the building twice a week, and
Yeah.
their role is literally they keep getting initials. So I think the question that you were really getting at is more of RTI. Now, RTI is
Someone to educate us.
it's response to intervention. So before anybody recommends any child to be referred for special education services, there must be some type of intervention or multimodal teaching practices that were implemented to support the gap areas that the teacher is seeing.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, right now we have this big influx with 3K, pre-K, and kindergarten kids coming in from COVID that are not speaking, or their speeches are is unintelligible, and like everybody's getting autism diagnosis out the wazoo.
Wow.
And it's like, the thing is, they weren't exposed to the same environment we were exposed in when we were born. So
Mm.
but they didn't have time to engage. They weren't put in a space where they were engaging with the environment and the world around them the way that they needed to pick up. So the first step is to actually teach. That's what ABA is really, to teach the basics that we would have picked up naturally. We're just explicitly teaching them. That's
Mm.
a form of RTI, because I'm not going to put a label on a child that I don't know doesn't know how to learn. A lot of
Mm,
people don't understand that. You have to teach a child how to learn sometimes, and then they will pick things up. But not we're so used to, oh, you're supposed to just pick things up naturally, and that's cool. But now that we live in such a digital age, those natural experiences are not even taking place to,
yeah.
some of those senses, so, or those natural abilities. So you have to teach them how to learn, and that's what I fell in love with ABA therapy, um, because I got to see a 2-year-old that was labeled autistic, and I worked with that family for a year, and he was nonverbal completely when I met him. And by the end of that year, he was speaking words, sentences,
Wow.
all his letters, singing songs, went into 3K, did not have to be in self-contained. They tried it. Mom advocated, is in an inclusion class, and mom sending me pictures. He's writing sentences. He is
Wow.
skyrocketing. Once he got that, oh, this is how I learned, he's off. And he was always social. So, but it's just the fact that they are willing to throw these labels out. And it's crazy how traumatized we all are, because when you're thinking about these roles in the school, you're thinking about this one instance. If your child is fine, has no delays or whatever, this is not even that's a little part of what I do on a day-to-day.
Yeah. And so, with that being said, how do you support the mental health and emotional well being of the students in the school setting? So, you may encounter, or not may, you encounter a lot of students that are dealing with a lot of traumatic experiences at home, and they come into the school space. And so, these diagnoses, COVID, just so many different environmental factors that's impacting them. How do you provide support, and what does that look like for you in the school setting?
Me specifically, I'm all about mindset in the morning, how you're feeling, and through structures. So I run the SEL programming in my building, and so I have it where teachers are required to do SEL check-ins. So children are coming in, they're checking their weather, they're getting off their chests, their emotions at the beginning of the day, so we can address them. Sometimes kids will say, oh, my hair, I don't like how my hair looks, or whatever. All right, come to my office, I got the jam, the gel, like, let's fix this. You feel better? All right. Because
Oh, I
it's
like that.
yeah, sometimes it's the little things like that. Like, the kids are human too. And that's what
Yeah,
I'm trying to teach, teachers and just other people that work with kids in different capacity, that are very strict and just see, like,
rigid. Yeah,
yeah, it just should be my way because I'm the adult and there's no other reason. Like, no, that's not enough. And two, you can't expect them to learn if you're not willing to teach them. And it could be something as simple as, oh, let me get some gel and thing my hair. Maybe mom didn't teach her that, or whatever the case may be. But guess what? When she goes to the store or gets an opportunity, she might think about that gel. You
yeah,
and rep, that's what I've seen in my time teaching. So those moments matter, those small teachable moments matter. So I kind of try to help train staff to have that in there. Then I have a calm space. So I have a room that's a therapy room that I created to have. I do groups, small groups in there. Everyone has their group. The boys have their group. The girls got their group. They got the conflict resolution. Like, everybody has their groups that they attend frequently. They could choose to go to lunch or go to group, and a lot of kids choose to come to group. They like conflict resolution. Um, and then town hall, honestly, is the biggest thing. That was what I started with my trauma informed care proposal, or trauma informed school proposal. So I always operate from a trauma informed lens, and I've trained the staff to, think of that in mind and not think of every reaction as a negative. Like, a simple example, like, the kids would cause a raging fit if they had to go to the nurse. So if there was a fight and a kid was injured, they wouldn't go to the nurse. So the teacher would not send a child to the nurse. That's illegal. So it's not on my watch.
but yeah,
Not on my watch. So I'm like, no, they gotta go to the nurse. So I would talk with the child, and I would say, like, what's the matter? Why you don't want to go to the nurse? And they would be like, oh, like, my mommy said the nurse better not call because they're not gonna pick me up. or or it would be no, or
Which we've heard it.
no, but or it would be like, oh, the one time I went to the nurse and the nurse made me bleed, and like they had some type of trauma that
Yeah.
related to the nurse or they associated with the nurse. So I would go in and I will call the parent with the nurse the first time, and after that they don't got no issues. And I will also explain that it's my job. I'm not a nurse or a doctor. I'm a social worker, so I need the nurse to make
Yeah.
sure that you're okay. And people like adults have it like, I got this to do, I got that to do, I got this to do, da, 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 I don't need to answer your question. And it's just like sometimes just being present with that child and just being
Yeah.
grateful that you're in the presence of a child like that's curious, that's experiencing life for the first time. This little moment, they could be experiencing it for the first time, hence their curiosity. And a lot of times as adults, we shut or miss those opportunities down to pour into them positively because we're so focused on what we have to do and this child's annoying and stop asking me questions.
But I want you to tell the audience what is the age group that you work with in your school?
Oh, 3 years old to 11.
And the reason why I'm highlighting that, because you said one word that I don't know that adults understand, that we can teach children conflict resolution too. And the reason why I'm highlighting that particular term, because that's a part of dealing with trauma and emotional and mental well-being, is how we're teaching children from a very young age how to communicate when they didn't like something, when they
Yeah.
didn't understand something, and when they need. So the fact that you're teaching 3 to 11-year-olds how to handle conflict is so powerful, and we need you to teach some of us.
It's way more powerful at the elementary. Like when I was an educator, I was middle school, then I went to high school. And then I left the high school and came to elementary. And prior to that, I was like, I never want to teach little kids, little bad kids, and they parents. I don't want to deal with no parents. I just want to deal with you.
Right.
um, but when I got that opportunity, I really did it because of the social work position. That's what I really wanted. And can I tell you, the kids that were in kindergarten when I first started are now completing the fourth grade, so they're going to graduate next year. And
Oh,
when I tell you, like, they bring me to tears because they spit back to me, the things that I've taught and said years ago when we were in COVID on the Zoom. They really,
yeah.
like, I was in kindergarten when you did town hall, or I remember. And they will spit back to you. If I'm down, they be like, Miss, did you eat today? Or what have you. I had a student
Yeah.
lunch from the cafeteria. He was like, did you eat lunch, Miss? You said you didn't eat lunch. Your weather was stormy. And it's like, yo,
Yes.
those are the moments that like I'll be like, thank you, Lord, this is where you place me to be. Because it really does work. And I was like, aha, that's it. We haven't done that yet. We didn't get that, and that's what they need. Like, we think that we're making them grow up too fast. But the issue is that the way this new world is set up, they are already exposed to everything.
Exactly.
So you have to just work through it and just know that they have a little mind, not an adult mind. So, talk it.
Give it to them the way they can receive it, the way they can digest it. And
Yes.
and I kind of asked you already, what does collaboration look like with the team? What does collaborating with parents look like when we are dealing with trauma and social emotional challenges?
For me, I don't have any issues with parents. I love parents because I'm honest. My trauma informed lens was that I recognize that this is a community that has already been hurt and broken and traumatized.
Mm,
Yes, and the social workers already. So I already came in. I asked to meet. I asked the parent coordinator to have me have a meeting with all the parents that I wanted to meet them. I wanted to introduce myself to them, let them
excellent.
know who I was, where I was from, where I grew up, and that I was not here to take nobody's kids. and that my role here was to be a collaborator and to let me know. Can I tell you, it wasn't very hard. Like, people would hit me up. Like, they came to me with problems that really they should be talking to their private person about, but they felt more comfortable talking to me about it. Like, I've done family therapy in the school like several times because parents, I've referred them out and they come back upset, and they're like, my kid just works better with you, or we feel more
Yeah.
to you. And it's just not just cultural competency, it's just being honest. Real recognizes
Yeah.
that's just what it is. I
Yeah.
don't try to be anybody else or be any special. And I also validate people's feelings from where they are. And that's what a trauma informed lens is that sometimes we don't really like listen to what people are saying
Yeah.
to us, and that's the part what makes it difficult. And they know that I care about their babies. Like, I've had parents that were mad at me, complain, whatever, and then next year that we cool again because their babies still love me, and then they talking about me, and Miss Michelle's doing this cool thing again, she's doing this, girl,
And
she's
they're growing. Yeah.
like, I want to go. And that
Yeah.
is like, all right. And so that's the thing. It's like we parenting together. Like, we may fight a little bit, but we both know
That's
that the kid is our best interest at heart, and that's just how I feel about that.
I love that. And the reason why is because I'm a mom, and my son has his own story to tell, and I can't wait until one day he shares his educational journey. And me being a mom of a child that is living with a developmental disability and not coming from a family that really understood what that was on certain sides, or at least my mom not really communicating maybe with her siblings to talk about it, really to get support. For me, I literally had to teach myself how to navigate through the system. And still, sometimes I feel like I didn't really do a great job because I learned as much as I could. But I did not have a social worker like Simone who was very intentional about connecting, about supporting. You just getting a call saying, oh, we think your child has a disability and we're just going to evaluate them and just give them an IEP. That's
Right.
not helping. That's not encouraging, right? Because still, then you're trying to navigate this space. So to hear that you were very intentional about being present, not just present in the school. It wasn't just a job for you. It wasn't just a check for you. It's a passion. And so to hear you say that, it really touches me. And that's why I think it's really important for everybody in this life when you're going into certain professions and certain roles, you have to have a calling and a heart because you are dealing with, especially when you're talking about children and education, you are dealing with them at the point where they are being shaped for the future. And so intentionality is really important. So, with that being said, though, has there been an experience where you had a child experience that, or currently living, or had experienced something traumatic, and the mom needed tools to be able to help their child outside of school to be able to process um, that traumatic experience? Have you encountered that or heard of it?
Wait, you're asking me, have I been traumatized from hearing a
No,
family?
no, no. So no. So have you had a student that had a trauma
Mm-hmm.
and you were currently working with them, but you brought mom into the space
Oh yeah,
to
that's
give
how
them
it works.
tools. So what did that look like? Can you give me a scenario or what that looked like?
Absolutely. My first month on the job. um yeah, there was a young lady at recess, because this is like, I just got the job, so I'm like assessing the kids, and I got the job in November, so the school year had already started. And I like to prowl the schoolyard during recess because that's where things happen. And I saw the young lady crying, and I pulled her to the side, asked her what was wrong, and she was just like, my mom doesn't care about me. And, she started saying all these things. And I was like, girl, bye. Your mom do care about you. And she was just like, she said, she wish I was never born. I was like, oh.
Oh,
Like,
oh.
and in my head, I'm like, that's probably what she said, but that's not what she
Yeah,
meant.
mommy
Um,
was a little mad at that moment, but the kids, they don't understand that.
so
Right.
I am talking to her now. This girl has impeccable grades, but her attendance is horrific. So
Wow.
there's so many things that I need to address. And mom didn't attend my meeting, so she hadn't met me. So I called and I said, introduce myself, nice social, I'm the social worker. I want you to come and have a meeting. But that day after I left the voicemail, dad was picking them up. Now I just got this, so I don't know none of the issues. Dad was picking up, and I talked to dad about it. So I don't know how dad delivered the message. Oh, I do know later, but dad delivered the message. So the next day, they're like, "Oh, Miss Muschett, you have a parent here to see you." I'm like, "Okay." I come down the stairs and I hear yelling,
Oh.
like, "Who's this Miss Muschett?" Like, she's a social worker, the social worker want to talk to me about my kid. Like, she was going in.
Wow.
And my little young self, but I wasn't gonna let it show. So I walked over and I was just like, "Good morning, Miss Enrique. So nice to meet you." Da 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 da. I can say her name because she's actually the long story short of it. She sat down and she was stuck, and she said, "I'm so sorry. I thought this was going to be a different type of meeting." Because I said, I saw your daughter crying. I noticed this, that, and the third. I just wanted to see if you were okay, if you needed any support in any kind of way.
Wow. Yeah.
It's like stuck. And she apologized for whatever she was doing downstairs. And that family not only like came to my first like resilience camp, like that family is still with us and a part of Rhyme till this day. And I
Wow.
always say, I'm gonna say you wanted to beat me up when you first met me. I did counseling for the family, the entire family in school through Zoom, and the girls were in school because
Wow.
mom had a lot of hurt inside that she hadn't dealt with at all, and it was projecting. And the first thing
Mm.
that like she doesn't come to school because I be so depressed that I'm not getting up to take them because this is elementary school. So if the parent is not equipped or is not feeling great to take care of themselves, then their kid is not going to get taken care of.
Yeah.
It's always through that family lens. And that's what started me to have parent support groups. And I started creating safe spaces for the mothers and the grandmothers to come in and talk, because then it gave them a oomph to bring their kid to school as well. But that was the first time, and like it was intense because I used to be a family therapist prior to, so it was helping me to tap into that, and I love it. And that's how that was that story. But I bring them in all the time. I had one mom on the phone. I was seeing their kid for at risk, and there was an issue. If there's an issue with a parent, they don't have any control. That it has to be the parent's decision, or I have to get the parent on board. I'll bring the parent into the meeting, not just as an advocate, but to help them facilitate that conversation because I'm the
Yeah.
bridge. Speak child and I can speak adult. So I'm the
Yeah. Which
bridge.
is important.
Right. And yeah, I'll do it on the phone, in person, or what have you. So, mhm.
No, and I'm glad that you said all of that because although this conversation is about understanding the relationship between mental health and the educational system, really the root of it is the home and
Mhm.
where the kids come from and their how they've grown up and the family dynamics. A lot of that impacts them emotionally and mentally, which then in turns impact their ability to be able to learn and focus and pay attention in school. And so what you do on a daily basis is you are pretty, like you said, you are the parent when the parents are not there parenting, and you provide that emotional and mental support to
Mhm.
them immediately as needed in that building. But let me ask you a question. What do you do? Because I don't know that everybody understands the magnitude and the weight of your role and what you really have to do and what you take on every single day. So I want to take this moment to ask you before we get ready to close. What do you do or how do you practice self-care and
Mm.
stress in your role as a school social worker?
Well. I've learned this in the last couple years to be more intentional about my self-care. So I do modeling. I think modeling, podcasting, being in the creative space really fills me. It gives me joy. Being involved in my church community. And even in that community, I'm able to do creative things and programming. I like putting on workshops and events. Like, that's my style, like planning, making people's visions come alive. That's what I like to do for fun, but that's still kind of work. So I also get massages often.
Yes.
That's something that I really love to do. You could find me eating a taco on Tuesdays.
Yes.
Definitely hits the spot. Like, I try to do little things like that, give myself breaks, be intentional about naps. Like, I recognize that I'm a very cranky person when I don't sleep. And I used to try to push, push, push. Now, if I need a break, I just take a break. And I do it unapologetically now. Like, if I need a day off to recoup, I always think like, okay, the full Simone is gonna be better, much better, and not just be able to give more, I'll feel better about what I'm able to give. But when I'm running on empty, it's not coming from that loving and caring place, and I won't do that extra mile that you might
Yeah.
need. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to cheat my students or my parents out like that. So now I'm like, okay. And everybody, they support me because people know I work hard. So
Very.
it helps, when you say it and you real and you honest and you're vulnerable, that more and more people are accepting of it. And it's really the fear and the misconceptions that keep us from doing that.
Yeah, that's true. And in all of your selfless ways, still thinking about your students even when you rest. Like, look, I'm gonna rest because I cannot show up the way you need me to show up. And so that's what I love about you, and I'm sure that's what everyone around you love, is the fact that you sacrifice tirelessly and you do it with passion and you provide quality support, quality service all the time, right? You don't cut the corners. And so, with that being said, what resources would you give to our audience to help with the social, emotional development of their children and mental health and build the resiliency, all that good stuff that you do?
Well, I said, get all my stuff, get my book.
No,
Um,
yes, yes.
no, but seriously. So, just to be clear, I think what makes me different from other social workers or other practitioners is my ability to utilize structure um, in an emotional and in an emotional space. And some people find it awkward to do that, and or sometimes we have a hard time having difficult conversations without the structure, and we don't know what that is. So a lot of the material, my resilience camps that I do in my nonprofit, it's all using those types of tools to support you. So my book, Cultivating a Resilient Mind, is an interactive workbook. It has devotionals, my testimony, but also the activities that I do at my resilience camp that you can engage in it. You can, that's something people could get for their staff and whatever. You guys could work on it. You can take it and use it for your students, um, and so on and so forth. And I also developed an online course. Um,
Which
uh,
is new because I hadn't heard
Talk about,
about that.
yeah. I'm God tapped me on the shoulder, so I have to promote this because now that being a doctoral student, I realize how I was ahead, and I needed to like revisit this.
Doctor.
So what is happening is there's a communication gap between the generations, right? And in order for social and emotional learning or competency to really come alive, we have to bridge that gap. And so I created an online course that adults that work with young people or have young people at home, so that's parents are included, can engage in the activity. But the way the course is set up, you have to find a group of people to do it with, because the activities are group activities. So you have to find at least 3 people, 3 other adults that you're willing to do the course with. And I walk you through the activities and the experience so that you could then turnkey or mimic those protocols in your classrooms or in your programs with your
Mhm.
students, to establish that trusting relationship that's going to set the foundation for when you have crises and conflicts and such and so,
Yeah.
because that's really where I operate. Everyone asks, what's your secret? What's your secret? I get to know the kids as people, and I let them get to know me as a person. And that's where I start, because now when I have a conversation, I'm having a conversation on what I know to be true about the young person based off of what they've been sharing with me. Some
Yeah.
adults, we do that. Sometimes adults, we think we know the kid and we think we know what they're going to say. I'm going to give you a quick example before we wrap up, because I wanted to resonate, because you talk about my day to day. So the other day, a student had wrote on the board, I want to kill myself. Now, he said this in the beginning of the year already. We talked about it. And the reason is, there was a boy, he was beefing with another boy. It was something else, a different reason. But we got past that and we recognized that that's not something that you say. Cool.
Mhm.
So this time he wrote it on the board. He didn't say it out loud. So, teachers email me as they should. And I met with him right away, because once we get something like that, we have to do a safety assessment right away. So check in with him. He was like, "No, I was just frustrated because, in my head, I'm thinking it's something similar to before, but I'm like, no, let me find out what's wrong." That's always my go-to with kids. Just give them an opportunity to tell me before I disclose what I think it is. And he was just like, I don't know what's wrong with me. The girls, they said they like me, but then whenever I get a chance to like talk to them or ask them to sit next to me, they're mean to me. And I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I was like, this is what this is about, girl. And I'm like, can I get a male teacher in here? And I did that. When you talk about collaboration, I kind of force people to collaborate, because I really am trying to make my methods be more visible. Um, because I find it difficult to explain, because so many people are saying the same words, but when it comes down to how do you implement it, we implement so differently. And I feel like the way that I implement is very different, and I've consistently been able to work with every age group with the way that I implement, like the GIM model or the change process, or implement the
Yes.
practices of social work. So that's like like a typical day of little things that come up, but it speaks to what's on the kids' minds. And
Yeah.
thinking about, like, what they're thinking about, like, is usually far off from what we're thinking about. Like 9 times out of 10, I'm surprised, and I never, like, I did a girls group and I said something, they talking about boys, and then all of a sudden I was like, let me tell you, we keeping it closed unless he put a ring on it. And they were like, period. And they stomping on, I was just like, what is happening? This is fourth grade. Like, it's just hilarious to see their personalities. But the reality is, I see the personalities of the adults in the world around them. So anyone that's
Yeah.
frustrated with the youth right now, we got to look in the mirrors, because they're mimicking, or model. And that's what social learning theory is. Like, they're learning from what they're seeing as well and mimicking it. So if we don't,
Don't start that conversation, because that's a whole nother separate segment, right? The modeling, the representation. How are we presenting ourselves? How are we showing up in our homes? I was laughing because one of my girlfriends, she said her son, the baby's only 3, and I mean, is talking so well, and he said a cuss word. I say, yeah, because he heard you say it. Because you be on the phone and you be talking, and they be in the other room, and these kids are listening. They hear what you say. Sometimes, and this is, like I said, we could go into this, and this is sensitive, but when we see little children come into school, already showing sexuality, or certain things that you would say, hey, a 5-year-old or a 4-year-old, how are they connecting? How do they understand this? And again, it goes back to either something could have happened to them or they saw something. And so now they're coming into the educational space, and now they are modeling whatever is happening at home or around them, right? Because maybe mom and dad is always at work, but they're left with their cousin, their auntie, their babysitter, right? And so you are doing so much great work. And I already put it up on the screen. I hope I spelled the email right, but I'll drop it. I'll drop it in the chat again if I didn't spell it correctly. Because I think the resilient might be missing something, but don't worry, everyone. I can't change it now, but I will go inside of the pages and share everybody's information, especially Simone. Please follow what she's doing. What do you have? So you gave us a snippet of your services, your products. If you want to tell us all that you're doing, what do you have anything coming up with your nonprofit? How can we support you?
Yes, my nonprofit, Resilient Young Minds Inc., where we support youth and families fight trauma with resilience to access healing.
Yes.
We are having our annual masquerade ball. I'm So Resilient masquerade ball next Friday. Tomorrow's the last day to get your ticket, actually. So you might want to head over to our Instagram page and hit the link in the bio. Get your
I'm here
ticket
updating.
last. But really, that event is special to me because that's the event where we honor the participants that have attended the resilience camps over the last year and have continued to demonstrate application in the skills that they picked up from the camp. So it's like a graduation, but it's also the primary fundraiser for our youth resilience camp. So now, usually, the goal for resilience camp is supposed to take youth out of their normal environment into one that is peaceful and safe, so that they can express their traumas, release. Now, this year, unfortunately, we didn't raise enough funds to do that trip, but what we are doing is a youth summit, a resilience summit, and it's going to take place between July 24th and July 26th in Brooklyn. Um, if you're interested, you guys can register for Resilience Camp. Just again, shoot me a DM or email, and I'll send you the link and add you to our newsletter so you can get these updates. But I'm really excited about that coming up because it's not a resilience camp, so I'm not going to call it that. But there's a lot of volunteers I've been networking with that do amazing work that want to pour into youth in the community, and they're not able to do that in the schools. And so this is kind of
Yeah.
an opportunity to collaborate with vendors, um, to work with the kids that are in a part of Rhyme and give them a coping skill, something positive to do, and also build rapport and relationships. Because I recognize that allowing your child to go overnight for a weekend out of state with someone you don't know is difficult for a parent to do. So all the kids that come through Rhyme all have I've had a rapport and relationship with their parents already, or I was already referred by a trusting person. So it kind of makes sense. So I'm kind of like, doing my program evaluations and tightening up. But that's the next event, and it's local. So I hope that we'll definitely have more youth to attend. And our final upcoming event is going to be our suicide awareness walk slash festival this year. This will be our sixth one, and that is going to be September 14th. And if you just follow us at RYM_INC on Instagram and Facebook, you'll get the updates on how to register or start your own team. Or if you are a vendor that provides a self-care service, massages, consultations,
Yes.
teas,
Come out.
all that, just hit me up and we're going to have you table. Um, we do demo experiences, and it's getting bigger and bigger every year. Life Equip Group, I'm sure, will be there hopefully this year.
Yes, I will be there.
And yeah, it will be a great time. I want to collaborate with, whoever I can to create these safe spaces. I'm here. I do family sessions and individual therapy for youth, specifically. So don't be a stranger.
Thank you so much, Simone, for sitting with us, having this dialogue with us. Life Equip Group, which I am the CEO and founder of, we are always excited to partner with Ryan. We love what you're doing, and we hope to continue to connect and collaborate on so many great things in the future. Thank you again for coming and stopping by and talking with us, and we look forward to speaking with you again. Thank you so much for coming.
Yes,
Take
thank
care.
you.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in this entire week. This was such a experience for me, and I want to make sure I close out tonight, extending my gratitude and saying thank you to all of you supporting me giving birth to this vision, to this idea that I've been sitting on for a really long time. For me, getting out here and speaking to you in this way and in this capacity is such uncharted territory for me. You've been seeing me go live, you've been seeing me come into these spaces and talk, but this is such a stretch for me. And so, those who have supported me, who have followed me on YouTube so far, those who have shared the videos, those who participated, thank you for each and every guest who attended from Monday to Friday. I did a marathon, okay? And I think discussions related to mental health deserve marathons. I think that we need to, no, not I think, I know that we need to continue the conversation, continue making mental health and taking care of our mental health a priority. We want to continue to cultivate healthy minds, healthy human beings by way of taking away the stigma and the negativity that's often associated with mental health in every community. So, I never really told you all of the things that I do, but one of my pride and joys, one of the things that I'm doing, I am the CEO and founder of a nonprofit organization called the Life Equip Group. And we have been around for 5 years. And no, about 4 to 5 years. And we have been doing great work in the community. Our focus community has been the East New York section of Brooklyn, but we've been in Williamsburg, we've been in neighboring communities, and we have so much coming up. And I wanted to tell you before I left tonight what we have going on. The main thing that we are doing right now is we are enrolling in our service learning program, LEG Cares. The service learning program is a program that's 6 weeks. It's starting from July 5th to August 12th. Enrollment is happening now. If you would go over to the Life Equip Group's Instagram page and Facebook, same name, follow us, click the link in the bio, and the registration form is there. The benefits of our LEG Care Service Learning Program, in which I created a curriculum in order to teach young people the importance of service and giving back, but also couple it with actual real life experiences, taking them into the community and letting them get their hands dirty, letting them learn about different causes and different vulnerable populations in New York City that's in need of help. And we're currently in talks of going to different countries. It is our goal, my goal, to take a group of young people from the inner city into another country to give back. So if you know any young people between the ages of 15 and 19, please send them my way. The benefits of the LEG Care Service Learning Program is socialization, teamwork, networking, community, leadership skills, and so much more. Another program that we will be launching this September is for the adults, well, young adults, ages 19 to 24. It's called the Sanctuary. The Sanctuary is a therapeutic self help group. And this is going to be virtual for now, but this is going to be a participant led group where we will have professionals come in and some non professionals to help navigate the conversations. Everyone needs a safe space. Everybody needs a place where they can go to talk and to talk about different issues that they deal with every day and get support talking about them. And last but not least, I am so excited. This is the third year of our Brown Girls Learn Scholarship Fund brunch and award ceremony. I'm so excited to say that we are still keeping it going. Last year, we were able to award one young lady, and we're looking to award more. And so I just want to put it out there that will be taking place on July 27th. It's going to be in Brooklyn, New York. The tickets will be live tomorrow on Eventbrite. So again, go to our social media page, click the link, and purchase your tickets. The early bird special is going to be from June 1st until June 15th, where you can purchase your tickets for $50 plus tax. And so that will be a day full of empowerment, speakers, engaging activities, food, and so much more. And so I thank each and every one of you for following us. And if you would like to donate to the Life Equip group, when you go to our page, also when you go into the bio, there's a section where you can donate to help further what we are doing. Thank you for joining me tonight, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Take care. Good night.